Today we learned the Inspector General intends to release his much-anticipated report on the DOJ and FBI 1 week from today. Michael Horowitz revealed the news in a letter to Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley. The IG will also testify before the Senate on the 18th. Now, we had been told that the report would cover just the FBI's investigation of the Hillary Clinton email scandal, but the IG report could be much broader, as Grassley titled the IG hearing, examining the Inspector General's first report on Justice Department and FBI actions in advance of the 2016 presidential election. Well, lots of ground to cover here with California Congressman and former Oversight Chair Darrell Issa, former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Daniel Goldman, and investigative reporter Lee Smith, whose work we've highlighted on The Angle. Okay, Congressman, let's start with you. You've been around the block on this stuff. What gives, you think? This is going to be a broader report. Why would Grassley title it the way he titled it?
Well, first of all, because Michael Horowitz has been around a long time. He's done a lot of investigations of the problems at the Department of Justice in a previous administration that wouldn't deal with those problems even when they were reported to Congress. So I think, first of all, that's going to be part of it, is he'll be asked questions that we know from the past he can speak on. And second of all, when you look at the endemic misconduct of Comey, including, for example, the Apple scandal, where he claimed you couldn't get information, it turned out not to be true, or the various handlings of Hillary Clinton from the very time he came in, it gets broad pretty quick, and especially when you look at other decisions that may have happened, including, obviously, the FISA warrants.
Lee, lots of things are bubbling up to the surface. This leak that came out yesterday. Now, to say that Comey was insubordinate and defied authority and that Loretta Lynch didn't handle the tarmac meeting well, right. If that's the...
Or even legally.
Yeah. If that's all they have, is that a big bombshell, or if that's it, I don't think people are going to be disappointed by this report.
Yeah, there's a lot of anticipation, and maybe it has been built up too much. There is certainly an enormous amount to cover, though, and I think that may answer why Senator Grassley has titled this as well. We'll be looking at a number of things, and also if you just look, the public is keen. The public keeps hearing things. The public keeps hearing leaks. We keep hearing that this is being pushed back. They're looking at this. This is being blocked. I think they're eager to get out a number of these different things before it interferes too much with the election cycle. I think I think that's one of the key issues.
Daniel, one of the issues that popped up today was with Papadopoulos. George Papadopoulos' wife is saying that she believes the approaches made to him could indicate that they were trying to entrap him, use him as this way to push this investigation forward. What is your reaction to that?
Well, legally, it's not entrapment if there's any indication from an individual that they're willing to do whatever the conduct is. So I think she's using perhaps a colloquial definition of what entrapment is. And what we do know is that George Papadopoulos made some drunken comment to the Australian ambassador to the UN, and that spurred further conversation.
Initially, it was reported, though, Dan, that he knew that there was lots of emails out there, Clinton emails, but then they backed off from that and said that they had dirt on Hillary, right? So that story had shifted. That's a big difference. Someone has dirt on Hillary, and someone knew that there were emails that were hacked and were going to be released.
The only thing I will say is, having spent 10 years in the Department of Justice and having had cases that were reported on by the news media, and no offense to you, Lee, but generally speaking, about 50% was right. And it's not necessarily the journalist's fault. Sometimes the sources are a little too far removed and they don't have as much of the information as you would like. So let's not jump to conclusions as to what actually was in that meeting. I think the broader point here is that there was some indication that Papadopoulos knew that Russia had information that he was trying to get access to. And at that point, it is absolutely incumbent upon the FBI to investigate that, to see if there's a national security risk of any sort.
So you don't think anything happened before that period of time? You don't think that anything of these text messages, December 2015, they were looking at Trump and they're talking about the lures inside, putting lures inside. Again, we don't know really what that was about, that one unredacted text. But that's just some weird stuff. Again, maybe it's just all innocent and they were having lures all over the place. I'm sure they do. But Something about this just sticks in my craw. I want to play something for you about the informants, because Kevin Brock, who actually supervised the rewriting of the rules on informants for the FBI, joined us last week, the week before, on The Angle. Let's watch what he said.
An FBI agent can't go out and just open up a source and gather information willy-nilly. They've got to abide by the guidelines, and the guidelines are very specific, particularly in counterintelligence investigations, and even more particularly when you are directing your source towards an American citizen.
The guy who rewrote the rules, Congressman.
Well, you know, and that's why when he said, you know, it's incumbent, that's hogwash. The fact is, every single political campaign, Senate, House, presidential, they're all looking for dirt. They want it wherever they'll get it. They pay for it. They hire attorneys.
Hillary paid for the dossier,
right.
for goodness sake.
They hire law firms to obfuscate
is she being investigated?
The whole thing. If the Department of Justice / the FBI investigated every time there was a credible attempt to get dirt, no matter where the source, you'd be investigating hundreds and hundreds
but come on, it obviously is different if it's the source of the information is a foreign country than if the source of the information is someone within the country.
A vague allegation that there may be something is very different than, well, we have Russian intelligence. And let's remember, in this case, at some point, the Department of Justice knew that, in fact, the DNC and Hillary Clinton were part of the source of that.
Long after this.
What, Lee?
No, I'm very
long before the election.
I'm very uncomfortable, actually, with the idea that the FBI is running agents and opening investigation based on what a campaign team member says and is overheard in a bar. I think that's peculiar. I think if we were to go out to a bar and have a conversation and the FBI, and I'm on a campaign or you're on a campaign, and the FBI says, let's run an investigation on that guy, I think that's not what we want to see the FBI doing.
That's a pretty low threshold for opening an investigation, don't you think? I mean, I see what Lee is saying there.
Well, look,
especially during a charged political season, with this guy's like a minor dude. Like, he's not any big
exactly,
fish.
but that's why I think you got to recognize the investigation did not start.
We don't know when it started. We don't really know when it started.
I'm not talking about the timing. Yeah. I'm saying I would bet a lot of money that when they started this investigation, they had no idea who was involved. They didn't think, I'm sure, at the beginning that it went to Donald Trump or went anywhere that high. They were following a lead of a very suspicious and specific statement, is my guess, that George Papadopoulos gave to somebody else. And they're going to chase that down, as you would want them to do, I think, to make sure that nothing nefarious is going on.
Did that Bill Priestap trip to London in May of 2016, does that seem...
I think it's unclear right now exactly where that is, but I will say that, like, we don't know whether or not what kind of mechanism that this was transmitted to the FBI. It suggested it was irregular, so the idea that it came through the State Department is an issue.
All right, fantastic conversation. It's very complicated stuff. We really distilled it well.
What's simple is...
We're out of time.